Welcome to Live Sense8. I'm Sheila Applegate.
And I'm Zac Hansen.
In this podcast, we dive deep into the concepts of consciousness and other interesting trivia in the Netflix Original Series Sense8. We're doing an episode-by-episode exploration of how we can live a Sense8 life. We're also throwing in some special episodes along the way with actors and crew and people who have contributed to the miracle of Sense8.
And this week's episode is brought to you by Denise Natishan, Teresa Halonen, and Divine Phoenix Books. Books with a purpose for a positive change. What's going on?
In this segment, we talk about what's going on in the world of Sense8 fandom. To begin with, I want to say a personal thank you to Monica G on Twitter, who live streamed for us a presentation by one of the Sense8 writers, El Cassandra Heman, when he spoke to film students on a campus in Chicago. It is incredible presentation, in my opinion. I love seeing behind the scenes to the writer's room and the process of creation. So we're going to put that link up for you on Patreon. And also Netflix Life, who have been really great to Sense8 and supporting us in keeping the word out and trying to generate more viewers as we lead up to the special. They're doing a rewatch leading up to the special. Not that we know when the special is going to be yet, but still, we're just moving forward because we know at some point it's going to be here. So we're going to keep promoting the best we can as we lead up to it. And what a great idea. So they're posting different episodes, rewatch episode days, and we can all watch together and comment. And don't you think that it would be really fun to rewatch and either re-listen or listen to one of the Live Sense8 podcasts that match up to the episode. So they're going faster than us. We won't be able to keep up with them, but at least until they pass us, it's a really fun idea to do those together. And if you're a new listener, it's a great way for you to go back and listen to some of our earlier episodes. And then G, who is the host of the YouTube series, The F Word, reviewed Sense8 Season 1 and gave it a really great review. And he put no spoilers in it. So this means that we have a video we can share, especially with people who haven't seen Sense8 yet, when we want to give them a little overview of why it's so great to watch it. One of my favorite lines that he said, he was talking about the cluster, and he said, it's like one spirit with 8 branches. How awesome is that? And then I just want to give a shout out to all of you Sense8 fans who are continuing to promote, thinking of new ideas. There's always a creative idea on how to get more viewers or more attention. And I know you're working really hard to keep the momentum going. So sending you a wave of love.
And over on Patreon, all you Sense8s or people who pledge $5 or more, and for all you $5 Patreons and above, please use your secret link in order to listen to the producer's cut of this episode with Michael Sommers and other episodes. Also, for all you $10 members out there, you limbic resonators, remember to check in to Patreon to find your deep dive classes where Sheila and I talk about and teach about living in higher consciousness.
Awesome.
Now on with the show.
Yes, I'm excited about today's show. All right, all of you know Michael, who plays Bug on the Netflix original series Sense8. You may not know that he also attended the San Francisco International Film Festival just last night, where Sorry to Bother You, the Sundance Film Festival hit by Boots Riley, was a sensation. Michael plays Johnny, the evil boss, to Lakeith Stanfield. Congratulations, Michael.
Congratulations.
Oh,
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
What an honor.
This is a really, this film is blown up and it's so exciting. It's coming out July 6th, so hopefully people can see it.
Oh, well, I will, for sure. That's awesome.
It's great. You're going to love it. I live in Oakland, California, and it's very much about Oakland, so that part of it was really fun.
Oh, that's exciting. And then last year, you also saw appearances in Chance from Hulu, Budding Prospects from Amazon, and the Indie Gem Saltwater, and the San Francisco Indie Fest winner, Don't Shoot, I'm the Guitar Man. You are a busy man.
Yeah, it was a good year. Yeah, especially with, you put Sense8 in there and you're talking a really good year.
Exactly, right. All right. And I hear your favorite stage credit is replacing Jeremy Irons in the title role of Chopin in Chopin and George Sand, from Ensemble to the Romantic Century in New York City.
That's right.
And Michael's great creative love is his true story, one-man play. This is amazing, Michael. You have a one-man play. And if all of you listeners, if you want to travel to Vermont in May, which I highly recommend, you can see.
Yeah, seriously.
Right? You can see.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You can see Michael's autobiographical true story, Heart in the Hood. Michael wrote, created, and performs all 17 beloved characters, as well as sings and plays the harmonica. For more details, go to his website, michaelsommers.com. That's Sommers with an O. michaelsommers.com. We'll have that on our Patreon page, too. And this is the show that you performed for Lana Wachowski and the gang in Chicago, and for the fans of Sense8 in Rome.
Wow.
Yeah.
17 characters.
That was, what's that?
17 characters. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of interesting people in my neighborhood, and these are my friends and neighbors, and you got to portray at least some of them. 17 is a small number for the number of good characters around here.
Zac, I think we're going to Vermont in May.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, let's go.
Definitely. That's awesome. Well, welcome, Michael. Let's dive in. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you. We're so excited. We're looking forward to this for a while now.
Oh, cool. Me too. I was excited when you guys asked, and it sounded like a lot of fun. We visit a lot of I was going to say fond memories. They are that, but they're powerful memories for me, man. I hope I don't start crying too many times.
We like criers.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, all right.
I always feel like I've done a good job if I get someone crying.
Yeah.
Crying in a good way, that is.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that kind of starts us out then, because my first question for you really was to have you share an overview of your experience with Sense8 and the cast. So far, of all the people we've interviewed, everyone is gushing with what an incredible experience this is. We have yet to find anyone who had a complaint. So do you fall in the gushing?
I'm a big time gusher. Absolutely. Seriously, crying was a big part of it for me, because I knew, a couple of things were going on. So I don't expect everybody to know all the details that they found out on social media, so I'll fill you in. In September and October and November, we shot in Europe, in Berlin and Paris and Naples. Napoli. Ti amo Napoli. And it's the final episode, so we knew, for me, two things were going on. One was it was the final episode, so it was very emotional to know that I'm going to start crying already. To know that we wouldn't be doing this again in this, well, knock on wood, I always say, because it's never over. But the second thing that happened was that me as an actor and Bug as a character kept rising up. And when I'll explain what I mean by that. Have patience. When I went to Europe, I was total full belonging, really for the first time. Let me take a minute to explain what I mean. With my first season, when I was hired to play Bug, I was hired to play one scene in episode 7. And shot in San Francisco, and I live in San Francisco. I live in Oakland, across the bay. And so what you do is you shoot your scene, you go home at night, and then you go back the next day, but you go home at night.
Right.
And then Bug, I got a call from my agent. Hey, Michael, Lana and Lily wrote another scene for Bug. I'm like, you're kidding me. And it was, it was just huge. It's like they liked me, and they liked the character of Bug, and they found Bug to be very useful, and important, and me, someone that they wanted to work with again. It's like, okay, I'm crying right there. So then season 2 happens, and you get these information in pieces and dribbles through your agent. And so my agent was like, Michael, Sense8 wants to see what if you can shoot in June. So I didn't know that they wanted me back, So I'm like, yeah, I think I can make it on. And then they start sending me scripts, and I'm calling my mom. I'm like, Mom, I'm in the first episode of season 2. And then they get the second script. I'm in episode 2. I'm in episode 3, 4, 5. I'm like, oh my God, my brain is exploding. I'm bawling, Yeah. And season 3 comes around, and not only, so season 2, I'm a full member, the character really. Bug is a full member of the cast, but Michael, me, the actor, I'm still for the most part in San Francisco and going home after the shoot that day. And it makes a big difference to go stay in the hotel with the whole cast and the whole crew, and then travel to the next city on a chartered flight and drink champagne and go out to the club. And that didn't happen until the final episode. And so I'm not some big Hollywood star, I'm I'm just me. And they're flying me, business class, first class, going to these fancy hotels. And anyway, so it was like I was a full-fledged member of the Globetrotters, of the cast and crew of Sense8 at that point. It was really powerful and exciting and transcendent. I'm hanging with Lana, we're in Berlin, and after the day is done, the beautiful thing about the hotel in Berlin was that the bar, when you come in the front door, the bar is like right there, which means that you can just sort of glance over and see if any of your friends are there,
Yeah.
And so even if they weren't there, I'd go sit there. So when they came in the door, they might see me and might choose to come, and I'm hanging out with Lana, I'm hanging out with everybody, and wow.
Fabulous.
Incredible
that sounds
people
awesome.
is the thing. That we wanted to hang out together. We liked each other. We thought that we still think that we're doing something incredibly important.
You are.
And I think so.
Yeah.
And, that was a long monologue, so I'm going to go back and see if you guys have
Well, I think that was so great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And part of what I do to prepare is I go through and watch all your scenes, just you, right? Oh, so I see the whole series just through Bug's eyes. And that was some of the thoughts that I had. I'm like, but you the character became such an integral part. And I noticed that, I mean, Amanita definitely supports, and she does her Google thing and her, spy thing, but your character got the cluster out of so many situations that they couldn't do. So I noticed that you were the one, they share their skills. There was this beautiful mix with you because you weren't part of the cluster. You didn't even ask questions in the beginning, but they were relying on you really, really strongly to get themselves through the situations, which you're the only character that really plays that role.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I thank you. But, I always look at it from my own character's perspective, which is that as much as they were relying on me, I was totally relying on them.
I can see that.
I feel like they brought me back into the world is how I look at it, which is, we're going to be talking about the themes of Sense8, and that'll be my opening salvo right there. That Bug felt part of the world through his friends on the web, but they brought him into the world that he really wanted as well, which was the physical world as well.
Right.
And it was just huge.
And they did, right. But of the cluster, you really only had been near Nomi physically, even though it wasn't virtual, right? Until until the final.
Well, I didn't. I was convinced that I did meet Leto, and I did. But I mean, in reality, it could have been Nomi just yanking my chain because I couldn't really see him or hear him. I'm talking about the scene in the Castro Theater in San Francisco. But that's one reason why going to Europe was so emotional for me, was because not only was I the actor become a full-fledged member of Sense8, but Bug the character did too.
Exactly.
And you guys will see in the final episode, oh my God, it's really certainly very powerful for me. You guys are going to love the final episode. My God.
I can't wait. Can't wait. That's really beautiful. And so, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just making a quick comment. It's very interesting to me because we interviewed Paul Agola, and he had a similar situation with his, like how his personal life reflected his life on the show. Right. So it's very, very cool to see more of that happening. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is a phenomenon that is all because of the Wachowskis and because of Sense8. And, Lana didn't have to cast me. So you understand, most of the time I live in San Francisco and Oakland, and I've just chosen I like to live here despite the fact that we get overlooked as actors. Sometimes they will defer to Los Angeles and New York, and this is the case throughout the globe. People like Paul, that they would come into Nairobi and choose such an important character from the local actors. Acting pool was, revolutionary, and gave such an opportunity to people like Paul and Mundi and everybody. Mm-hmm. That was just, and you could see their gratefulness, you could see their talent, and this is what Lana knew. She was like, I don't have to be beholden to this way of doing things, and ask Lana, go ahead, I dare you. Ask Lana
I would love to
be beholden to, any preconception. If it makes sense, she'll consider it. But, Lana is a free thinker, a deep thinker, incredibly. She's maybe the smartest person I've ever met, maybe by far. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't need the approval of anybody's preconceptions or their previous way of doing it. And the ramifications of that are huge. They are literally global.
They are. And as an audience member, too, I really appreciate being able to see fresh, talented actors. It's refreshing as an audience member.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Paul, look at Paul.
He's amazing, right?
Yeah.
His exuberance, just jumps off the screen and, is fantastic. So it was, all of the actors from all of the other countries, of course, the cast Kathy is out of Los Angeles, but that's the one exception with all of the cities outside of the United States. That's pretty exceptional, in my opinion.
We just keep getting more and more layers of how much of a masterpiece and how transforming this is, because even that by bringing a new a view of actors, a new sense, a new perspective, because you bring to the table what you're living. And I mean, my daughter's in LA. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with LA, but by representing characters that really would have been from that area, you're going to play them in a way more from the heart, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And then you're forcing yourself, you have no choice but to be talking about the actual situation, not your imaginary situation. What would it be like to live in Kibera in Nairobi?
Right.
Well, let's go to Nairobi and get some people who live in Kibera and look at the number of extras, the background people. Those people were from the neighborhood. I wasn't there, but that's what everybody told me. Toby told me, and everybody. They're like, "Oh yeah, we were shooting in Kibera, a place where Lana told me that she had trouble casting people because their agent thought it was too dangerous." And she said, "Look at the numbers of people murdered in Chicago." It's propaganda, she said,
Right. Oh, that's great. So do you feel like how much of Michael is in Bug? How much are you drawing on your own personality for that?
That's a good, a lot, sure. And as we progress more and more, and again, that's as much attributed to Lana as to myself, because what she does is she starts getting to know you, and she sees these things about how I am, and she says she can't help it in a way. She just starts writing Bug more like Michael.
Right.
And so she's writing. I don't know how aware she is of how spot on close. She probably is aware, because she is the most aware person. You can't believe, I couldn't believe that she's way busier than I am, of course, and she would notice things about me. I'm like, how did you do that?
She's a multidimensional being.
She is. She's a true sensorial.
Yes. Well, that's why she could write it so well.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. It was, now we're getting to some more, you can say shit on a podcast, right?
You can,
shit?
Yep. That's the great thing about podcasts.
Have at it.
Well, the thing that I was going to get at is that this, I didn't know how close. I mean, you can tell by watching it that it must be close to Lana's heart. Particularly with the characters of Nomi and Amanita reflecting her own life. But it's even more so than you realize. And one of the ways is in her creativity. She revolutionized. This is my first time working with her, but I talked to so many crew members in particular that have worked with her for 5, 10 years, and this is actually very. She used to be very. This is my understanding from stories from others. She used to be very much like, well, this is how it's going to go, and, please do it this way, and everything was kind of planned out and sort of controlled, and this was the opposite of control. It was Lana letting go of control and seeing what happened, and then being like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen, let's go with that, and oh my goodness.
That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, that spontaneous creativity is awesome.
And you can feel it.
You can feel it. You can feel so I keep telling people Sense8 is revolutionary in many ways, not just in its inclusion and its treatment of love and of what I call sort of outcast people is maybe too strong, but maybe not too strong. But also in her creative process, she is encouraging. She is showing the way to Hollywood and beyond this different way, which is Lana's deep understanding of the technology and of storytelling and of filmmaking, which is letting go of this control and allowing the heart and the creative moment, the creative spirit to surface. And it's revolutionary. Nothing short than that.
I couldn't have said it better.
Yep.
I think you're spot on with that. And I hope that people take notice and follow it in her footsteps.
Sooner than later.
Sooner than later.
Like
they will. I hope they do
now,
it now. Yeah. And the other thing that I keep saying is that as each of you go on, even if you come back to Sense8 time after time and it moves on somehow forever, but you carry this experience with you. And because she drew from, because you're not even talking just the cast members, the crew and everything she got locally too, right? Like everything was with some exception, she drew from all over the world. So she planted everybody that worked on it. I don't want to put it all on Lana, but they planted these seeds that will keep growing from exactly what you said.
Yeah. Just how you got to work with Lana.
That's right. I just wanted to get the facts straight on. It's absolutely right that they hired local crews everywhere we went, but there was also the sort of, I don't know what you call it, the in-house crew, the Globetrotters. So there were two groups of people everywhere we went. One was this is why it was so important for me to become one of the Globetrotters, was because I was akin to the local crew people who go home at night and sleep in their own beds. But there's the other group that stays in the hotel and travels to Mumbai and Seoul and Mexico City. And so they were both.
Right. I'm so glad you got to be in both.
Yeah, me too. It's an excellent
Oh my God.
An amazing experience.
Yeah, that's why I cried so much. Because I was so grateful if that wasn't clear. And, I was thinking earlier about what you both might ask me. And when you're talking about Sense8, it's always about inclusion and belonging is such an important theme. And I realize that there are levels of belonging. And I think it's not just me in Sense8. I think it's everybody. Mm-hmm. And what I mean is, I was cast at the level of belonging, and then I became a more regular character. That's another level. And then there's the level where I became a full-fledged globetrotting member. And I think that's true with people in their relationships, Mm-hmm. Oh, I met this friend, and I think that she likes me, and we get along. And then, then there are more levels. otherwise she wants to see me again, maybe romantically. And then, you keep going, maybe we should become partners, or that was interesting to me.
Yeah. And I think that looking at those layers and definitely the idea of inclusion is something that is represented in Sense8 and talked about a lot. And in some levels is only scratching the surface of the miracle of Sense8. But one of the things, even on the most surface level of that, which isn't that surface because it's still groundbreaking, is I think that if you look at that from a perspective of what is in our worldview, right, we can only include what we've been kind of exposed to, what we've been included in some ways. And so by seeing these different forms of relationships and even the different countries, the different cultures, we're welcomed into an aspect of the world that we may not have had a lot of exposure to. And then other people who may feel very connected to some of those aspects are feeling welcomed into a community that may be outside of their community because lack of exposure on their part, or not many people knowing what life in their world is like. So just in being exposed, just in seeing love portrayed in different ways and seeing culture not in an over fantasized way, but in a very real, grounded, beautiful way, that in itself is transforming and inclusive in some ways, because we can't really fully embrace what we've never seen.
Oh, that's well said. Yes. One of the things you're making me think of there is the international community. I get stopped occasionally to be been recognized from Sense8, and people all assume that, there's a lot of people from the LGBTQ community. I'm like, well, that's right. But the ones that they don't expect is actually there are a lot of international people and people say, why is it so huge with them? There are a lot of internationals in San Francisco. And why are so many people from Colombia and I have a friend from the Czech Republic and all these people, Mexico, that I think it's a similar. I didn't realize until Sense8 how much the world watches U.S.-centric entertainment, and that makes them feel like they're not represented. Same thing like how Black Panther made African Americans feel like we're full members now.
Right.
We're represented on the big stage. And the whole gender fluid and queer community, or just, sort of off-center people like Bug and myself feel represented. A friend of mine said just recently, when you see yourself portrayed and you felt previously ignored, it's just huge. You can't imagine how powerful it is. And that's what Sense8 has done to so many different people.
Yeah.
Types of people and individuals.
Yeah, I would agree. Part of one of the discussions we had in a previous podcast was about seeing somebody for who they are on a very deep level. And we were talking about Nomi and Amanita sitting by a bench that particular moment. But I think part of the awareness of inclusion is just visually, so to speak, acknowledging people first.
Yeah.
I see you.
Yes.
And so I think that's just another layer, like the beginning layer, I see you, into that inclusion of those deeper relationships that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, we were talking about those layers. You are so, I completely agree with that assessment. We're seeing someone is so important. And, the fans in particularly in Napoli, in Naples, Italy, and in Paris, France, they surprised me how many there were. And that's what we did when we were just walking into the hotel and there'd be fans out front, and they were just so appreciative that we would stop and chat, take a photo or whatever. And I think it's just saying, yeah, I am we. You are me, and we are all together. Cuckoo, ka-choo.
Cuckoo, ka-choo.
That's another area of inclusion that I hadn't thought about, but our experience with the cast and crew and people is that we feel included. Like, yes, this is a huge sensation and you're still showing up as people. And I understand that, sometimes I completely understand people in the public figure as a public figure who want to protect their privacy, but there's an inclusion that carries over to you all as you go out into the world and welcome the fans in, whether it's on social media or like you said, when you're walking into your hotel after a long day, there's a showing up in that way and an openness to be part of the fan base as well that I haven't. Now, to be fair, I have never invested this much time into any other TV show, but I haven't ever seen or felt that from a whole show. That inclusion that goes between the people involved in creating the show and the people who are loving the show.
Yes. It keeps going back to Lana in my mind, because we'd be there and one of the acts, Lana would say gratitude. And typically we'd come out after a long morning shoot, go to lunch, and then Lana would say gratitude. And she was only talking about herself, but I think she was also suggesting that maybe the others of us would go out and make a point of seeing the fans. In Naples in particular, they were there at every one of our sets. Many of them were rather public on the beautiful, ancient, tiny streets, very narrow. And we'd come out of lunch and we had a little game sort of, because we had bodyguards, me. I had like 3 bodyguards to go to lunch someday.
Michael, I hate to break this to you, but you are now a Hollywood star.
In Naples.
That's more than most people can say.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to be a Hollywood star in Naples, maybe as much as any other city in the world. So.
Right. So you came out with your bodyguards. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just had to, tell you that in case nobody did.
Well, that's very nice. The bodyguards were just wonderful. They're these huge, menacing-looking guys, but you're like, hey Guido, how's it going? And he'd show his true, warm-hearted self, And I would kind of make a play of breaking away from them, and the fans would kind of go nuts, and you'd take as many photos as you could before you had to, get back onto set. And in order to help me, not look like a jerk, my bodyguards, and one of them was Guido, would, be like, act real stern and kind of pull me away. She's like, oh, look, I really want to stay with you guys, but, this tough guy, he's full of, well, what am I going to do?
That's so sweet. On all of your parts. That's great. Should we do a clip? We have a couple of clips here to some of your scenes, and we'll just talk about them afterwards.
Oh, that'd be fun.
All right. This is where we have Bug meeting Nomi and Neats for the first time.
Where's Mike?
It's me. I'm Mike.
Oh, shit. Fuck. Right. Totally forgot. I'm a fucking idiot. Of course it's you, buddy. Of course it's you. Not you, like the old you. Like a new, hot version of you. Shit, Mike. You're a total fox. I would do you. I would totally. I mean, not in a degrading way, like that sounded, but total compliment.
Thank you.
Her name is Nomi.
Okay. Who's this?
This is my girlfriend.
Seriously? Shit.
Bug.
Right. Business. Everything you need. Right here. Hey, look, if you guys are starting some crime-fighting Super Team Charlie's Angels shit, you count me in.
Badass.
No wonder they wrote you into the script.
I know. I love how you had to do the awkward, like, guy talk, but now things are different and you had to adjust so quickly.
Yeah. And that Bug, you know, once he got over that she's my old friend Mike is this hot, foxy woman now. He got over that in like 3 seconds, you know, and just saw his old friend, the same as always, but just with his new look. You know, I love that about Bug.
I actually can relate to that a lot. I had a friend that was a woman and then didn't have contact with her for a while. And then she came back, kind of early in her transitions, but she was, now a male. And, you know, first time in the early days of making that shift, it was so interesting because to me, it felt more natural when he was a he, you know, there was just something, it was a better energy match. So it was really easy to make that shift. But when
totally makes sense, right?
Yeah, it really does. But when we weren't together, this was what was weird in the early, I mean, it's completely past that now, but in the earlier days, I would think of him as her because in my memory, I knew what I was. Yeah. And so that, like, it totally makes sense to me that Bug would come up here knowing that it happened and still have to, like, have the brain catch up to it. And even as comfortable as you are with it, it's like your brain has to reprogram itself when you're not near the person at first.
Yeah, I might be personally afraid to voice some of those feelings. But Bug just blurts them right out.
Exactly. Right. That's what's great about him. I mean, he's just going to say it.
Oh my God, you're hot.
Not only are you hot, but you used to be, you know, in the old days, I don't think you would have gotten this hot girlfriend, you know,
Yeah, exactly. If you had stayed Mike, it never would have happened. Trust me.
So yes, I mean, just Bug's acceptance of that is incredible. How did you feel as the actor in that?
Well, I felt fantastic, but it's a little bit of a complicated question because you never know how you know, what is Lana and Lily, will they like it? And John Toll, and the director of photography is John Toll. And everybody else, and the other actors, and you know what happens a lot to me, and probably to other actors, is somebody will come up to you after a scene, and they'll be like, "Oh wow, I can't believe you interpreted it that way," and you're like, "Oh, thank you," but in the back of your head, you're like,
"Is that good?
How else was I supposed to?" No, I'm just solving it the best way. The best way, and sort of in my mind, not the only way, but you know, sort of like that.
Right.
So you're like, well, what do you mean? what were my options?
That's awesome. Well, you picked the right option because you ended up, not only because it was amazing, but because you ended up in the rest of the show. So we know that you did.
Yeah, right. And I think that, well, I'm trying to analyze it so I can, continue to do it better. But I think, Bug's exuberance, his excitement with Nomi's transition was hugely important.
Yeah.
He thought it was cool.
Right.
And also his playfulness, which is, which is about him saying, I would do to you, or not in a bad way.
Yeah. Not in a, not condescending, but
a derogatory,
degrading way. Yeah.
Degrading, thank you. Not in a degrading way.
Right, that's that whole guy talk, and then it's like, oh wait, no, I didn't mean to offend you. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How do I talk to my guy friend who's now a woman? Well, maybe if I use the word degrading, that will help. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an awesome scene, and you just nailed it with that, in my opinion.
Oh, thank you. So, I felt so honored, and I felt a little like with that honor comes pressure, which is a really good thing. And what I mean by that was I very quickly saw that this scene is revolutionary.
Right.
And it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
To Lana, and I didn't realize at the time how personal it was to Lily,
Right.
So, but I knew that, and I was like, wow, I bet I'm not gonna go in unprepared. That's for sure.
Oh,
and I really worked.
Great job, and just the theme of acceptance and being able to see. Nomi for the first time, because she's got her family and not everybody's on board with this either, and so it's really comforting to her, I imagine, as a character, to just be able to go through that transition with ease instead of super awkwardness.
So you said that you couldn't see doing it in any other way, really, but how did you get a lot of backstory on Bug, or, a description, or did you pretty much just go off the script and create that the way you saw it?
Well, I create my own little backstories.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you have to be aware of as an actor it takes a little experience, a little time to learn, which is you can't stick to your backstory because the plot can develop and change, and you're going to have to change something. I don't know if you follow. You have one idea in your head, and then you say, oh well, and then Nomi and Bug do this thing. You go to this cafe, which means that this part of my backstory, the way I had it in my head, Bug was a wanted criminal. I'm making this up.
Right.
Well, no. Anyway, but it does help me to enrich my relationship, particularly with Nomi, but also with Amanita in particular, to come up with, the backstory is known, though, the basis of it, which was that Nomi went to prison for Bug.
Right.
Or she didn't go to prison. She got off, but she was willing to, she took the fall for Bug.
Right.
And I don't know if Lana would, I don't know if I ever told her this, because it sort of doesn't matter. It's kind of nice to, especially because Bug is secretive, it's kind of nice to have secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Could be as a character, because that's just human and that's real. It makes Bug more real to me to have secrets. But to me, Bug had been in prison before, and that's that. And that I met Mike, Nomi Mike. She rescued me in a way online while I was feeling suicidal and not wanting to live, and in prison, and this one glimmer of humanity emerged in the form of Mike Nomi. I didn't flesh it out entirely. I just, you know, what are the actual details? Could a prisoner be online with a young man? I don't know. You know, but so Bug had such a deep gratefulness to Nomi for rescuing him. And then Bug, we see Bug rescuing Nomi.
Right.
But in Bug's mind, he's not paying back 1/10 of what she's done for him.
Right. That's beautiful. That's
so there was already this sense of gratefulness and acceptance. So you kind of like, I don't know if that was the first time you guys had met in person on the show, but it seems like
no,
okay.
Not in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it just seems like you were able to you knew there was more to this person than the hacker.
Yeah.
Right. To help you open up to the acceptance of all the craziness that's about to unfold.
And I think that I repaid Nomi in this. Again, this is entirely backstory, entirely my imagination, but I think that I repaid her in the same manner that she repaid me. And what I mean by that is I didn't ask her any questions. Mm-hmm. I picture her not even asking me, well, you know, what are you in for? Did you do it?
Right.
You know, what was your crime, or are you innocent of the crime? She didn't even ask. And I think that's Bug waiting until well into, I think it's episode 5 when I finally say, you know, you keep talking to these voices in your head of people that aren't here, and you know you can trust me. Maybe you should fill me in.
I got that queued up. Let's have a listen.
Okay, great.
I know you got some kind of really complicated problem here. And while some people might get a bit freaked out with you dark and empty space all the time, you know, I'm totally cool with shit like that. And I just, you know, you can trust me, right?
There it is.
Yeah, and that's part of my point was that was a long way into his relationship with Nomi. That's, you know, that's episode 5 in season 2. And, you know, he just sat there and it was like, I don't need to know. Well, all that matters is that I'm your friend and I'm down. You know, I'll do whatever for you. And, but until there seemed to be some sort of reason for it. And then he asked, it's like, it might help, you know, that's the underlying question. It might help if I knew some of these things, you know.
Right. But he doesn't even push it. Like, to me, that line is just like, so, like, it's exactly what you said. There's so much love there. And it's really,
if you feel like telling me, you know, that'd be okay.
And I also heard, like, you do, like, wanting to know that he was trusted. Like, you know, just letting her know I'm not going to do anything. But there was this part of his heart, you know, like you said, where she's saving him still. And that he wanted to be, there is a longing to be more in the inner circle then.
You're totally reminding me of something I had sort of forgotten, which was that it wasn't so much in my mind, in Bug's mind, that I needed to know the information. It was like I felt like you don't trust me. Right. You know, do you trust? You know, after everything I've done, it feels a little bit weird that you're keeping this from me, and. Yeah. Another level of belonging, like we were talking about.
Yep. I really long to be in that. Like, I love you and trust you that much, you know. Right.
And I would love to make you feel really good. It doesn't matter to me the facts, but to make me feel like you trust me and I feel beloved, belonging.
Right.
Yeah, within the trio.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I'll play this next clip too, just to reinforce where that's coming from.
Yeah.
Whoa! Wow. Wait, so, like, your brain is like part of the bigger brain, and it's all networked and file sharing and holy shit, no. I thought this trans new body, now a hottie thing was cool, but this, the secret species thing, shit, that's like the coolest thing I ever heard.
Okay. But please don't talk about it. This is serious, Bug.
Of course it's serious. This is capital letters B-I-G, as in Galileo. Time to rethink geocentrism.
I love that.
As then you go stumble down the stairs.
Yeah, that was, again, for me, the actor, when I saw that scene on paper, again, like I described earlier in the podcast, I don't know much. It's just how it works. And I get my information by they're like, oh, here's the next script, you know? Mm-hmm. And you don't know, like, you might have one little line in it. Okay, I'll get on that, you know? or you discover that they're telling you the whole secret, and you're becoming, like, as, you know, as big as a character is, you know, you're belonging again. You're becoming one of them. Oh my goodness, when I read that and Christmas scene, and I want to, a fan actually helped me understand some things that I got intuitively, but, you know, it helps to get it concretely in your head. I met a fan named Javier, and we became friends. And Javier said, oh, the thing about Bug is that he says what the fans are thinking. And I was like, oh, that's true. You know, he's like, this thing is so, he's the biggest fan of Sense8 is Bug, I think. You know?
Yeah.
And for him to hear the plot, and he's like a fan, he's like, oh my God, it's blowing my mind. I love it. It's
right.
Just so beautiful. It's like humans connected, like, in a way like humans, but in a way like computers, and in a way, oh my God.
That's awesome. I never thought of that Bug as that either. So I would definitely agree with that. He says what the fans want to say. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then he says he has to go think for a week or sleep for a week, which is hopefully what the fans are doing is like, and we've heard many not sleeping for a week, but just, you know, just really letting it sink in, letting it stretch our brains to a whole new realm of possibilities.
Right.
And I love the idea of you reading that script with as much excitement and enthusiasm. It makes so much sense, right? You read that line and you're in the exact same emotion that Bug is when they tell him, because you're like, oh my God, I'm in. I'm going to Paris.
I asked, you're an actor, I think, Sheila. Is that right?
No, I'm not.
You coach?
I do coach actors. Yeah. I'm a spiritual. Yeah, I came up in through the spiritual connection thing, and now I bring it into the creativity side.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, what I was going to ask the listeners of this podcast to do, especially if you are an actor, is imagine, you know, reading a novel, or in my case, I'm reading a screenplay, which is this beautiful, transformative thing in its own right. And then you come across some lines that you're like, oh my God, these are, incredible lines. I love these lines. And then you make this add level. You're like, wait, I'm going to be saying those lines. I'm going to be the one saying them. And you're like, I mean, because in my mind, I'm seeing this as revolutionary and historic. Every step of the way, it's unavoidable. And so you're like, wait, I'm going to be I'm the voice of this historic moment. Oh my God. I'm going to stumble down some stairs right now.
That's awesome. And you're right. And to know that in the moment is amazing, because I honestly believe that it's already had a huge impact, but I don't even think we've touched the surface of where it's going.
I agree. Well, I think this might be enjoyable to hear this recollection. It was very, oh gosh, just thinking about it again, I'm getting a little weepy. So we finish this long, grueling shoot, which is, I'm talking about the 2 months in Europe, and we're at the wrap party, and I'm hanging out with Daryl Hannah, Lana Wachowski. I'm sitting at the same table with Lana Wachowski, a 2-time award-winning director of photography, John Toll, Neil Young, and these other people who are incredible. I'm just like, oh my God, what, this, and I'm one of the ones sitting at the table? That's weird. This is the wrap party, and we're in Berlin, and Lana gets up on a stage on top of a bar to make a little thank you end of project speech and put it all in perspective, which Lana is, she always has. Maybe the thing that's so amazing about her is her ability to have the big perspective right there with the small perspective. Mm-hmm. This moment, my personal take on it versus the cast versus history versus the planet versus the whole world. She has all of that in her brain in the proper perspective. And she said, one of the things that you're making me think is, she said, this show is 10, 20 years ahead of its time. Right. And I think that is the truest thing about it. And the implications of that is that it will take a long time for people to realize its effect and its importance. And some people get it, right away. Mm-hmm. Some of the less mainstream people who feel out of the mainstream a little bit, people who are internationals, they seem to get it right away. Mm-hmm. But everybody, my prediction is everybody will get it eventually, but we're not at that point yet. So it's interesting when I talk to different people, I try to feel out where they are. Do you get it? Mm-hmm. Do you get the importance of this show? Or because I have to speak about it differently, right? If they don't quite get it yet,
right?
What have you learned? How do people experience Sense8? What are people saying, and what if they?
Well,
how is that?
I'll start, and I'll give you my experience so far. As running the podcast,
right?
For everybody who's been following along, we know that Martin Earhart actually came from Buenos Aires, Argentina, to the United States, and he got to spend some time with Maximilian, and he came up here to good old cold and snowy Syracuse, New York. And that's kind of a Sense8 experience, because he was out here meeting other Sense8s or Sense8 fans. And
I talked to him.
Oh, cool.
I spoke to him, but I didn't get to meet him. Yeah, I look forward to that in the future.
Oh yeah, Martin's a great guy. We got to spend some time together. We had a lot of laughs. It was when he was out here, we actually got a party together of local people who love Sense8, and we started filming part of his documentary here in Syracuse. And
oh, wow.
I kind of helped co-direct and co-facilitate what was happening in the room, but he had some amazing questions, and I got to watch everybody's interviews. So I'm the only one besides him that had that particular experience. And it was really amazing to sit back and listen to how Sense8 affects people in a common way, but different because of their perspectives and maybe their jobs and their walk of life. There might be common threads in particular scenes, but those were all translated differently as people were watching them. And then just to listen to how everybody was, and I've said this before, everybody's kind of given this permission slip, and they realize that Sense8 is talking about a way of life that is possible. And I say that is because as an audience member watching the show, you are in almost like the cells of your body on this very subtle energy level, maybe subconscious even. There is this voice that goes, that's me, or that's the way life should be. And it really opens up people to ask that question of, oh, shouldn't I be living this way? Shouldn't life be this way? I would love to be more open with people. There was one of the gentlemen who got to speak, he was able to see people differently and open up to them differently. So he has different relationships with people now because he's just more open to different walks of life. So it's been a really unique perspective, specifically from that moment. And I can say this, that the Sense8 fans are super passionate people. And I think the reason for that is because Sense8 hints at something that is just on the cusp of something that they can experience or they know life should be like.
Right. And as we kept talking in this podcast about progression, we're going there, people. We're going there.
Oh, yeah.
We are.
I mean, that's mind-blowing. That's exciting. The same experience has been happening to me, and meaning that you talked about Martin opening up and experiencing relationships in different ways. And that's absolutely been happening to me. And it was Sense8. From my perspective, it was as much the themes in the show as the way that we were acting and living. Like we were talking about the living it, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. Right. That's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful.
And there's definitely a welcoming, even just online. One of the things that happened just this week is I noticed in one of the groups on Facebook, one of the Sense8 Facebook groups, somebody's wife died, and he turned to the group for support, and the outpouring of love. I don't know. Did you see that? Were you I
did not see that, but something happened in Rome that reminds me of that. You finish your story and then
It was just the outpouring of love. There is a sense of inclusion as Sense8 fans. Yeah. It's almost like people who are in a 12-step program, and wherever in the world you are, if you say you're part of if you're looking for an AA or an Al-Anon, there's going to be people there to welcoming you in, or a church, and not in the structured sense of religion, but in that commonality. And we have a base of which we can perceive life from. And so it gives this baseline for people to go immediately into deeper conversations, I think.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is something. A similar thing happened in Rome, Italy. I had the great pleasure to go to a fan fest there, and one of the fans that was so excited to come couldn't make it, and we learned that it was because she was struggling with suicidal thoughts and actions, and the same thing happened. The fans, but also the cast. There were 4 of us there at that time: Max, Toby, Brian, and myself. I think that we all felt that there was something intrinsic in Sense8 that is about this connection, and there are also, I think that fans, a portion of the Sense8 fans are slightly vulnerable, because so many of the fans do feel like one of the reasons for the passion is that they're not feeling included in some way in their life, in their society or their group. I think there's a strong group of people, proportion of Sense8 fans that feel that way, and that strong passion, and certainly the actors, Toby, Max, Brian, and myself, we talked quite a bit about that, and we supported this young woman, and it was very powerful. We were like, wow, this isn't just a show. There's an aspect of the support group. We're saying you're okay. I am we, and we are all we, and yeah, wow, that's powerful.
It is really powerful.
Your story is powerful too, that the 4 of you there would open your heart so deeply to a fan in that moment. That's incredible. I honor you.
Well, to think that, how can we not? I mean, to think that something that we were involved with was so important, to this one individual, and by expansion, you assume to others as well. And we're like, of course, this is important to us.
Right.
How can it be any other way? I think we're losing. I think this is part of our growth, as we're talking about a new way of living, maybe an evolution in a way of human beings.
Yeah.
I think in the deep past of human history, it's prehistory, because it's before writing. There was all this talk about, you keep hearing these legends about human beings could talk to animals. And have you heard this?
Yeah. Yes, and in my world they still do. But go
in a way, that's what I'm getting at.
Right.
I don't mean to talk, but we can communicate, and that the lines of communication were open.
Right.
And that seems to be quite different right now. In my imagination, the way that happened was this sort of, I was going to say global. Why not? This global mindset, this mindset that everybody shared, maybe a spirit that we all share, and that's the vehicle that we're using to communicate. Because I don't think it was like, hello, Mr. Bird, how are you feeling this morning?
Right.
No, I think it was something like more direct to our spirit, maybe. And you're talking about the internet connecting people's minds, and then the next step is they become aware of each other as being a global. And then I think somehow, in a weird way, to me, technology is perhaps pushing us back to this previous state of connection.
Michael, you're like You're exactly saying my belief right here. I think that it is. It's springboarding us because it's reminding us how to talk inside. Because when you're in an online community or you're communicating online, you don't use your external ears. And so you start to trigger those parts of your brain that hear the whole conversation in your head, see the conversation in your head. I think it absolutely is training us to go back to that state of being.
I hope so. That sounds beautiful.
It is.
Yeah. I have a story with an animal that happened this week. We have a enclosed porch, and often a bird will get in to the porch. And I was leaving the other day, and there was a bird on the porch, and so I looked at it, and it was trying to fly out a closed window, so I just looked at it, and I said out loud, "Follow me," but then I visualized him literally finding his way out by following me. So I just did that. I walked out to the car. I turned back, and the little bird was hopping out the door. Like, he followed me so much that he got down on his feet and he came out the door.
You didn't have to take it that literally.
It cracked me up. I'm like, aw.
You did a good job translating that, though, because flying wasn't working.
Right, exactly.
Just smashing his face in the door.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I believe, Sheila and Zac, that is exactly what's happening all the time, and that we're just less aware of it than we were. And there may be something in our verbal language that has made that has gotten in a little bit in the way of that.
Absolutely.
I think that you're using your imagination to speak to the bird in a way. I think that may have been more closer to this ancient form of communication. I think you really nailed it there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I couldn't, when my dog was alive, I couldn't even think in my head, I'm going to go for a walk in a little while, because as soon as I had that thought, he would start barking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we do see it, it's just that we have to remember.
Obvious.
Yeah.
It's obvious that this exists to me. A friend of mine was working in a place with all these animals, and one of them got out, and all the humans it was a bird again, and all of the humans were like rushing at it and trying to catch it and grab it, and the bird, what would you do? You'd get more and more panicked and crazy. It was flying around it, and my friend said, okay, everybody out of the room, I will do this. And she closed the door and stood there and just thought to the bird, it's all right. I'm going to come, and I'm going to pick you up. And she took a very long time to do that. But when she went to pick up the bird, it just let her.
Right. Yeah.
Because it knew. She was communicating with it. And it was, I love that story. I love your story too.
Yeah, no, it's so beautiful, and it's beautiful to place that together and to realize that that's part of what the internet's helping us get back to. Sense8 is helping us get back to, and I think why it's hitting so deeply to the core of the fan. So we asked some people on Twitter what they would ask you. And these are some of the ones we got back. And I'm going to give you...
exciting.
Isn't it fun?
It's exciting, yeah.
So I'm going to start with their Twitter name so they get a shout out. So Anna Sense8 says, OMG, Michael is the best. I'd love to hear the story of what happened to him the day he found out Sense8 was canceled once again. That many Sense8s can hear that. So I hadn't even heard it. She knows something more. So do you know what story she's talking about?
Yeah, I do. You know what? I got a little distracted there because I'm pretty sure I know Anna Sense8. Although it's not so uncommon Anna, do you live in Paris? Anyway.
There we go.
I think we met, didn't we? Didn't we meet? So yeah, the day that Sense8 was canceled, I was, as you can expect, in a bad mood. and I went into San Francisco, and I never do this. I always go straight to the Haight Ashbury district to meet my friends. I always go straight there on the public transportation. But this time I thought that I would get off and walk a fairly long distance, just to sort of, feel the earth and not be in a hurry and feel my feelings. And so I'm walking in this different place. I'm like, oh my goodness, San Francisco is full of beautiful hills. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've never been up on this hill. And I was really enjoying that. And then this beautiful young woman was looking at me, and I was like, well, that's cool to have a beautiful young woman looking at you. But she came down and said, are you on Sense8? And I was not accustomed, honestly, at that time to being recognized. I said, yeah, and this was Laura, and she's from Colombia, and she was there with her friend from Germany. And we talked to be recognized and then chat with a devoted fan for a good long time. And, we took our selfies and, we're still in contact. And it meant so much to me.
That's a beautiful story. And just the Sense8-ness of it, that you took the walk, that you were right there, that you got that love right then, and that remembering that Sense8 can't die. It just can't.
Yeah, it can't. That's right.
Very beautiful. So we have the I Am We campaign. They would like to know about the day. I know you've already mentioned this, but they want to know about the day you were written back into the show. Is there anything special about that day for you other than that?
I think you're talking about in season 1 when I learned that I was going to do more than one scene.
Yeah, probably.
And I think this is another friend of mine who lives in Berlin. So hello.
I Am We campaign does a lot to support Sense8.
Yeah, well, I still wear your shirt, so thank you for the T-shirt, and I have your stickers. When I was written back in, that was a very emotional moment. Again, it's the belonging and it's like, they like me. I forget who said that at the Oscars Academy Awards speech. They like me, but that's how I felt, and this is still going on. And then there's a further implication. You're like, well, if they wrote me in one more scene, there could be more. And it was just incredibly emotional. And in my mind, I brought up the director of photography, the cinematographer, John Toll, quite a few times, because I just love this man, and I feel very close to him. And as part of doing that scene, Sense8 was done shooting in San Francisco. So they flew me to Chicago to shoot that scene. Okay, I have to do a little tangent here. Another thing that they wanted to shoot was, I had, at the end of my first scene that we played the clip from, where I meet Nomi again for the first time as a woman.
Right.
And I had improvised a line that wasn't in the script, that right at the end of the scene, I said, "Missed you, buddy." And Lana and Lily liked that so much that they flew me to Chicago, not only to shoot the scene, but to make sure that they got that. They filmed it, but it didn't work. The sun was going down, the light was bad, the sound was bad. I don't know. Sorry for that tangent. I'm going back to John.
Yeah, that's a great tangent.
So I'm in the hotel in Chicago, and it's the very last person I saw as I was going back to the airport. as I was getting in my car and being driven back to the airport, which is how it happens, and it's not something I'm used to. It's pretty wonderful. John Toll was in the elevator, and he's not somebody who uses a lot of superfluous words. So when he says something, people tend to pay attention, and I certainly was. And he just looked at me and he said, "You'll be back." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'll be back.
Yes,
I'll be back."
That's as exciting as when they invited you to Christmas dinner in the script.
Yeah.
That's right. It's very similar, actually, isn't it? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we have Omax. What is your favorite scene to shoot in the upcoming special?
Well, that's illegal.
Yeah.
Right?
It did
But
say
I
that
can
they're
try.
just teasing you. We don't want to put you on the spot.
we don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, I can try, but it's so hard. You know, my first thought, in a way, it's hard for me to explain because I'm like, how do I explain without giving away anything about, the finale? But two things are coming to mind, and one was because it was the hardest, and one was because it was the easiest. When I am first introduced in the finale, it seemed like the most, I had circled it, in my mind as, oh, this is the most important scene that I've really got to nail. So I went over and over and over and over it, and we shot it in Paris, and let's see, what can I tell you without giving away? I'm sorry. I have to just say it's when you first see me, and then when we see the finale all together, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Perfect.
It had to do with everything that we've talked about today. Bug feels like he fully belongs, and Michael, the actor, feels like he fully belongs. And so it's this huge emotional thing. So that was the most difficult scene. And then there was a scene that was, that I'm describing as the easiest in a way. It was easy in a way because it was given to me late so I couldn't think about it. It was given to me because one of the actors was stuck on a different set on the other side of the world and last minute couldn't make it. And so Lana gave the scene to me, and I was like, oh my God, I get to read this scene. And all I will tell you is that I'm in a car and I'm talking to Kala. And it was a beautiful, beautiful scene that Lana wrote. And one of the reasons why I'm most proud of it, and it was the most fun, was because the whole time in Europe, there was time constraint. Time. So being very efficient was, I knew. Not everybody knew, I think, but it was obvious. We got to get this quick. You got to get it right, and you got to get it quickly. So I give my performance to Kala, and Lana said, good, that's what we're looking for, but just do this and that, which is basically to kind of simplify it and shorten it, make the take less lengthy. And so, don't think, Mike, like Lana had said, just do it. Mm-hmm. And she calls action, do it again. And I do it, and I could see out of the corner of my eye, Lana gives a fist pump. I'm like, yes. and then the next words were, cut, moving on. And that's what you want to hear. Right. Moving on. You just, we could have shot that for a long time if I kept not getting what Lana wanted.
Right.
But no, the fist bump cut, moving on. I was like, yes.
That's awesome. Good.
And hopefully that's, I think that's what Lana means by generous too. That's another aspect of generous,
Right.
which is that if I'm not all worried about, these things that are my priorities, I want them to see a hint of a tear in my eye, which may or may not be important. But if you do what is needed to, say, cut and move on, then the next scene gets 15 more minutes,
Right.
and that's before the sun goes down,
Right, right.
There are hard and fast things that we can't change, like the sun.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was very fulfilling. And then I actually was able to see that scene, and, Lana's direction was perfect, a little bit more straightforward approach. It was exactly what was called for in that moment, and it was beautiful.
Exciting. I can't wait to see it myself.
I know, and you did an awesome job of answering that questions without giving anything away or compromising yourself. I'm impressed.
Great job.
Hopefully it's just a good tease, what does he mean, the scene in the car,
Right.
And we're like, I know, that's what he was talking about.
Exactly.
And another tease is that there are just a couple of there are going to be some new Sense8 songs, new anthems that are going to be, I don't know if anything's ever going to be more important than, hey, what's going on? Hey.
Right.
But there are going to be some really, really excellent new anthem Sense8 songs. But you know that, but you don't know like you will know.
Right. Well, we can't wait.
We can't wait. Michael, it has been awesome talking to you today. Do you want to let the fans know what they can look forward to from you as far as your work going forward?
I would love to. As we said at the top of the show, I was at the San Francisco International Film Festival last night, and I hope that you all get a chance to see this movie. It's just, I always love the movies that I'm in, but this has gone to a little bit of a higher level. It's called Sorry to Bother You. Sorry to Bother You. And Boots Riley lives in Oakland, California, like I do, and he's a rap artist, a hip-hop star from decades. His most famous band is called The Coup, and he is a first-time filmmaker, and he does this film, Sorry to Bother You, and it opens up July 6th, and that's in the U.S., I'm sure it'll get a global presence, but I don't know where. Anyway, I'm very excited about Sorry to Bother You. And then the other thing I'd like to mention is if you want to go travel to Vermont, and I'm twisting Sheila and Zac's arms and they're tempted, in May, I'm performing my autobiographical true story. It's a one-man play called Heart in the Hood. It's about my life living here in Oakland. I'm a small town boy from Vermont, and I moved into a pretty rough and tumble inner city neighborhood, and, we're talking drugs and homelessness and, violence. And I've come to love it. And come see the show, and it'll take you on a journey and try to explain why. And again, it's about themes of Sense8 of inclusion and belonging are the keys to maybe all of life, but certainly in this neighborhood that I live in West Oakland, in Oakland, California. This show I performed it for Lana Wachowski and the whole gang at KinoWorks in Chicago. KinoWorks is the production house of Lana in Chicago, and Lily and the gang there. And I also performed it in Rome to Sense8 fans. And so it was, those were just wonderful experiences. The show's called Heart in the Hood, and the best way to learn about it is to go on my website, which is michaelsommers.com. It's MichaelSommers.com. And May 6th in my hometown of Middlebury, Vermont is the first show. There's also May 11th in Waitsfield and May 13th in the tiny town of Windham, Vermont. I'll be performing in the church that my parents got married in.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I've done it. I think I've told you what's coming up.
Awesome.
Awesome. And
all right, Michael Sommers, thank you very
so
much. We've had such a great time with you today.
Oh, me too. Wow. Thank you, Zac and Sheila, and thank you, all you wonderful Sense8 fans. I love you guys, man. I couldn't believe how much love I got, particularly in Paris and in Naples and all across the world. And you know I love you. And I promise I'll be back to visit you. And I'm gonna bring I promised to Italy I would bring my show to Rome, to Italy. And I did, and so France and Paris, you're next.
Awesome.
That's great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening. We had a great time with Michael Sommers today. You can always contact us via Twitter at live_sense8. You can send us an email at team@livesense8.com. And if you enjoyed the show, you can head over to patreon.com/livesense8 and pick up some excellent perks to support the show so we can grow. Thank you very much for spending your time with us this week, and we'll catch you next time.